living, full-spectrum, certified organic CBDA hemp extract. Ness's hemp oil was extracted from seed to bottle without chemicals, solvents, or heavy metals, and it surpasses world-class standards for purity. This pure and powerful CBDA has been proven to reduce aches and pains, ease mental tension, and promote better sleep. To get yours today, visit the Shop Our Partners page at freedomstate.us. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to For the Love of Freedom. I'm sorry I'm a few minutes late. Some tech challenges, which unfortunately seems to be happening more often than not, but we overcame them and we are on the other side of it. So thanks for sticking with me. Welcome to For the Love of Freedom. Today is Wednesday, January 28th. It's 10 a.m. Central, and I'm your host, Danielle Walker. We are coming to you live on Voice of the People, USA TV and Radio Network, on Rumble, X, YouTube, and Facebook, and you can always catch us on the audio-only podcast platforms later. I'm so happy to be with you today. Thank you for joining me. On this show, we meet people who have rejected the status quo, people who've broken with convention and broken with the belief that the TV or the textbooks tell them the truth, and each of my guests, in their own way, are working to bring freedom to the world. Back with me today is a friend of the show and someone this audience really loves, Sean Briscombe. Let me bring Sean forward.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Yeah, I can't believe it. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. I can't believe the first month is gone already.
We
got 11 more to go.
Yeah, it is crazy. And I just want to remind our viewers that you are the author of The Truth About Taxes, the co-founder of the Kind Foundation, and you have a deep understanding of the financial services world, the highs, the lows, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we are living through, I think, all of that right now simultaneously, the good, the bad, the ugly, the highs and the lows. And we're going to talk about today our tax dollars going to fund fraud, what the future of the Fed looks like with Jerome Powell, especially since he's under investigation, and what's happening in the gold and silver markets, which is potentially an even more massive big short than the one of 2008 that we've talked about here before. Before we get off to the races, let me frame out the show with a scripture that'll set the tone. Today's scripture is Psalms 123, verses 3 and 4. And it says, "For we've had more than our fill of this scoffing and scorn, this mistreatment by the wealthy elite. Lord, show us your mercy. Lord, show us your grace." And I thought, well, first of all, that jumped off the page whenever I was getting ready for this show, because you always talk about the wealthy elite and how they have somehow positioned themselves better than us. But as I was reading that, I was thinking, since 2020, so many of us have been praying for exposure, for the truth to come out in so many areas of the world that we live in. And exposure is what we're getting now. And, we wanted it, but we knew it wasn't going to be pretty, but it's pretty ugly.
Yeah, it turns out that the wealthy elite are fraudsters and hucksters,
Yeah.
Which is kind of what we imagined all along, but just didn't quite believe until now, Yeah. It's kind of crazy.
It is crazy. And the wealthy elite, like, you think of people like Ilhan Omar, and somehow she's made $30 million in like a year being a member of Congress.
Last few years.
Yeah. And she's got I was looking at something yesterday that said that she, her husband, which is her third husband. I wasn't clear that it wasn't her brother husband, but it was another husband.
Sure.
Anyway, I guess he's under investigation for a fraudulent, like a Ponzi scheme, for a winery that doesn't exist. Have you seen this?
He's, he runs a venture capital group, which, when I see venture capital, I always kind of look sideways, because it's really just it's a smattering of a bunch of people that are throwing their money into something and going after a target, is typically what it is. But turns out there was no target. Turns out it was just him getting a bunch of money. And what's interesting is a lot of these VC companies and a lot of the organizations that they're uncovering are getting grants from these NGOs. A lot of that money coming straight from the
Oh my
taxpayer
God.
to the NGO. So
Of
it's,
course.
yeah. And so these NGOs that are non-government organizations,
Yeah.
non-profits, right? Not for profit, are disseminating the money, spreading it around to the for-profit groups for, program related costs and fees and expenses, which is what it's supposed to be for. But what are those expenses? Nobody's auditing that. Nobody's looking
Sean,
at it.
I think we are going to look back on 2025 and say one of the most massive things that President Trump did was shut down USAID,
Yeah.
because you think about the amount of funding. Now, of course, other departments in the government are funding things. The Department of Defense notoriously funds a lot of things. The Department of
Mhm.
Education funds a lot of NGOs. I mean, Health and Human Services, they all do, but the entire purpose of USAID was to pump these NGOs full of fraudulently money that would be fraudulently
Mhm.
used. And I was just asking Grok before the show, how much money, what's their latest tally on
Mhm.
Minnesota? And it said about 8 billion, 8 or 9 billion in Medicaid fraud alone. Then another 300 million in this program called Feeding Our Future, which was used for school lunches.
That was
Now, how,
one man, one person that was
that is
running that.
insane. And they've only recovered, I think they said they've recovered 75 million. And
Yeah.
then,
That wasn't an organization. Does that make sense? It was a guy.
yes, it's just one guy.
I mean,
That's
it's
incredible.
technically an organization with an EIN, but
Yeah.
it's
There
it's so blatant, you know,
there
when you're
was
looking at
this
it.
there was this program. So when I was working on Africa in DC, I had some interaction with USAID, and they had just launched this program the under the leadership of Raj Shah, when he was running the USAID under Obama.
Mhm.
And so it was this program, and of course, a lot of it was supposed to be helping farmers in Africa and things like that. Well, now we're getting a lot wiser to that and saying, okay, you have all these noble causes that you point to that make people cry. You make sure that we see all these commercials about how desperate people's situations are. And then
In
you
Somalia,
just,
no less,
yeah,
the
yeah,
the ads are in Somalia showing
yeah,
Somalian children starving to death, you know, and that's what you think your money's going to.
yeah. Which is still not right, right? We should be able to
Sure.
send our own money there directly if we wanted
Right.
to go there, rather than the government saying, I know best how to use your money.
Right. Charitable
Uh,
giving. That's the way it
That's
should
right.
be.
That's right. That's right. There was there have you heard the story about the letter to Davy Crockett, I believe?
Mhm.
It's an excellent letter, and it's just coming to mind now, but I think it was, okay, I might be getting this completely wrong, but whenever I want to say it was Davy Crockett. Let me just look it up real quick. Um there I could be wrong, but let me see. I think he was was he a congressman?
I believe he was
Yeah, I think
for
so. And
Texas.
yeah, and he had a okay, well, I could be getting this wrong, but anyway, there was someone who got a letter from their constituent, and whenever he was asking if he could expect their support again, the constituent was like, absolutely not. You And he was like, I don't understand why. And I guess there had been a fire in Washington that burned down a bunch of people's homes. And
Mhm.
the money he had earmarked, he had voted to send funds to those um, fire victims. And the guy
Mhm.
was like, you didn't have my permission to give my money to those people. It may be a very noble cause, and that's great,
Mhm.
but that's not what tax dollars are for.
Right. Nobody voted on that,
Yeah,
you know, and the workaround is, well, you voted the members into Congress and they're representing you. Well, they're not anymore,
they're not.
and there's a provision in the Constitution that says what to do in the event that they stop, representing us.
Yeah. So this is the time of year we start seeing year-end statements coming in, and you
Mhm.
start piling them up in a neat little pile or a messy little pile so that you can get everything ready for the tax man.
Yep.
Or
Hoping to not be taken to the, woodshed,
to the cleaner. Yeah.
to the chipper, which is insane now that we know where the money's going.
Yeah, should
It's
we be paying taxes this year? I feel like we should absolutely not be. Now, you could ask me this any year in the last 5 years, and I would say no, we should not be paying taxes. Have I
yeah.
paid my taxes? Yes, and then some.
Hmm.
Um, but it's it's getting harder and harder.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. When the curtain is pulled back and everything's exposed like it is now. I mean, this fraud is just the tip of the iceberg. President Trump came out today and said, whatever they're saying it is in Minnesota, the fraud, triple it, quadruple it, because that's
Yeah,
the truth. And he's right.
yeah.
Unfortunately, he's right. You know, this is
And
just the
he
tip of the iceberg
he's also said that Minnesota is a drop in the bucket of what we're going to find out about
compared
California.
to California and New York as well. You know,
And I don't think red states are going to get off scot-free.
oh no.
If I was a red state governor right now, I would be getting my ducks in a freaking row. I would be having a real effective doge. I would be like losing my mind trying to get these things in order because they're coming for you.
Yeah.
It may they the look those
Every
states that
governor in every state should be held accountable for the fraud
absolutely,
in their state.
absolutely. Yeah,
100%. You know,
yeah.
it's the buck stops there in your state.
Yeah,
You
and
know, you have the
the
purse
two-party
strings.
the two-party, fake dichotomy that lets us
Yeah.
believe that fraud is only on one side of the ledger and the people on the other side of the aisle are our enemy. No, I think what we're learning right now, aside from the complete insanity of what we're witnessing on the streets in Minnesota, I think that kind of chaos aside, what we're learning in our own review of or just watching what's going on the news is actually mostly it's quote unquote elected officials, is government bureaucrats that are our enemy. Who is it that's
Yeah.
extracting money from us and
Yeah.
providing no return?
Yeah. I mean, it's the idea, it's the concept of government controlling things instead of the
Yeah.
people controlling themselves, or having that sovereignty. It all goes back to the same conversation that we always have, you know, but it's what's unbelievable to me is that well, the hope is that we abolish the IRS and we don't pay income tax anymore. Imagine the raise that everybody would get
Yeah.
just in not having to pay income tax. The states might still charge some income tax in certain states. Texas has really high property taxes, so it kind of offsets.
Mm-hmm.
There's no income tax, but we have high property taxes. Other states have lower property taxes, but also collect income tax. But it should be state by state, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
so if we could just abolish the IRS or eliminate the income tax for everybody, imagine what that does to the economy.
Yeah.
You know, you shut down the fraud, you stop the income tax, and that alone fixes the deficit, the debt. 37 trillion can be paid back very quickly when you're not losing $1 trillion a year
Yeah.
in
And
fraud,
in fraud. And I think
just fraud.
as I was looking at the numbers in Minnesota, a lot of the fraud was state tax fraud,
Mhm.
funds, state funds. And I just think that,
That's where the money is dispersed at the state, but it still comes from the federal treasury.
no, some of the funds were coming from the Minnesota Treasury that were fraudulently used as well. A good deal of them,
Oh,
and
okay. For
and
state income tax, you mean?
yeah, and
Got
I
it.
just think you look at Texas. Okay, you have high property taxes. That's insane too, because then you never
Hmm.
ever own your home.
Yep.
That is not right. I
Yep.
I, I think we have to get to a place where we start asking, what are we getting for our taxes? And, we're not going to pay one more red cent until
Mhm.
you start cutting the fat. Like in Louisiana, for instance, last year there was an initiative, it did pass, that said that it it just said, okay, every single dollar that is taxpayer money, every single dollar in the Louisiana budget that goes to an NGO has to go into this certain section of the budget so people can clearly see that we are funding NGOs with that money. Well, I think that's a great first step. Now I think we ought to take a big black marker and get rid of all that freaking money, because it
Yeah.
shouldn't be going, we shouldn't be funding NGOs for any aspect of government. If it's
You
not
know,
an
they
essential
just
function
they
of
just
government,
they passed the latest spending bill, and it includes funding for all those NGOs you're talking about after all the fraud was exposed. And
yeah,
57 Republicans voted for it,
I saw
along with the
that.
Democrats.
I saw that.
So, we're
The
past the point
uniparty.
of no return.
Yeah.
If you think about it, if they're willing to do that today, after everything we know, then there's nothing they're not willing to do
Yeah.
at that point. There's just, they can't be trusted at all with any of the money. None
No,
of it.
no. And they're all owned by the same masters, apparently. I mean, yeah.
They're all in the same club,
Yeah, that's it.
you know, getting rich
So,
off of us.
yeah, exactly. So I saw in the headlines that Jerome Powell, the Fed, is having a meeting today to decide the fate of the interest rate for us for the next quarter, for however
Mhm.
long.
So place your
Um,
bets. Is it going up or down or staying the same?
yeah. I think people are betting on staying the same because Jerome Powell
Mm.
wants to give a finger to President Trump, but not so big of a finger that he ends up in
Yeah.
prison or
Yeah.
something. Would
Yeah.
you talk a little bit about the Fed and how it is not really a government institution and how it is
Yeah.
completely destroying the value of the dollar?
It's a cartel, essentially. I mean, it's literally by definition a cartel. It's a conglomerate of member banks that control the money supply. It's no different than the oil cartel, you know, when
By
back in the
member
80s when
banks,
we had that. Go
would
ahead.
you just elaborate on the member banks too? Like, is it other Federal Reserves are member banks, or
Yeah,
the
so there's the Federal Reserve of like Dallas. There's the Federal Reserve of New York.
yeah,
They're in different regions, and the
okay,
design was that before there was a central bank or a central currency, there were every state had their own kind of banks and their own way of issuing money, and it was haphazard. And so they wanted to
mhm,
make it more uniform. So they set up these banks around the country that would all issue the currency that controlled the money supply. And at the time, it was those paper notes were based on silver and gold. $1, one paper dollar was worth one silver coin.
yeah,
What's silver at today? 117, I think, was the last time I looked.
it's pretty up there.
So this is interesting to me. So in 1950, imagine the cars that we drove back in the 50s, those huge tanks, right?
Mhm,
It used to cost $2 to fill up those cars with gas, right? It was two
yep,
dollars to fill up the car, and those dollars, paper dollars, were tradable for silver coins. So you could go to the bank and 1-to-1 get your silver if you wanted to redeem your silver. So if you think of $2 silver, that's what it cost to fill up the gas tank back then. Well,
crazy.
silver today is at 117. And so, if you think about it, the price of silver has skyrocketed. The value of the dollar is not going anywhere. It's going down,
Yeah,
compared to silver. It's taking more dollars to buy the same silver, same two
yeah,
coins of silver,
yeah.
which is insane.
It is insane. And what do you think that means, Sean? I mean, there are people who
I think
believe
right
that.
now it literally means that we're just the tallest midget in the room. That's all it means. It's not the collapse of the world per se. When you think about it, the biggest risk that we have is that when you see countries like China and Venezuela getting together and trading oil in Chinese yuan, or the
Yeah.
BRICS nations coming together and trying to create their own currency
Hmm.
so that they don't have to use US dollars anymore. That's the biggest risk that we have. And I think that's what everybody's seeing right now is because of the debt, 37 trillion and growing a trillion every 100 days. Isn't
Crazy.
that insane? 100
Yeah.
days, another trillion. And it's just growing. And everybody's seeing that. And so they're saying, well, what else can we use? And so what you're seeing right now is central banks around the world are buying gold and silver like crazy. So the
Hmm.
demand is through the roof. And it's just because they're also holding US dollars or US treasuries and they don't trust those.
Yeah.
And so we're in a real pickle, real
Yeah. And
pickle.
and I saw this week that China, I believe it's China, um, started a kind of its own depository where people will have countries will have their own dedicated um, space
Yeah.
for their gold and silver, as opposed to, I guess,
In
whatever we do in
China,
the, yeah.
how
Now,
funny. Do you trust the Chinese,
no, I don't.
the
But some
communists?
people trust them more than they trust us.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah.
Nothing, no business has ever gone into China and come out successful. Not one. Do you know that? Like
No.
Elon Musk going in with Tesla is scary to me because it's like all they do is steal the tech. They steal
Yeah.
everything.
Exactly.
That's how they operate as a country,
Yeah.
you know. So
Now.
it's I would never put anything. When you buy a silver coin in China right now today,
Mhm.
it's $20 over spot price. Did you know that? The premium is $20 over spot
I knew it was higher in Asia. Why is that? That's the
because
real.
nobody can get their hands on it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's it's like it reminds me of that story. I have that buddy of mine, Kyle Bass. I write about this in my
Mhm.
book, The Truth About Taxes,
Yeah.
and he has a board seat on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, the COMEX,
Mhm.
and back a long time ago, I think it was like 2012, 2013, he was named to the board of directors at University of Texas Investment Management Company,
Mhm.
UTIMCO, which is their endowment fund. And at the
Yeah.
time, it was like 28 billion in size, and now it's even more because he's
Wow.
grown it so much. But he was sitting on the board. He was the fiduciary. He's responsible for managing the money, and he decided to position $1 billion into gold, which at the time was below 1,000. It was like eight or
Wow.
900 at the time. And so he bought $1 billion of physical gold, and he went to the COMEX to audit their purchase. It was like 1,300 bars of gold, and they were going
Mhm.
to take it with them because they were building a underground bunker at University of Texas to store the gold,
Wow.
a vault. And so he goes into the warehouse, and the first thing he realizes is there's no gold anywhere on the shelves. Like there's nothing there. So he asked the night manager on duty, he's like, how much gold do you have physically on hand here? And the guy said, well, at the warehouse, we have about $2.3 billion in physical gold. And Kyle was taking $1 billion of that with him. All right. So he asked the next question. He said, how much is being traded on the exchange right now against that physical gold? And he said, at any day, any given day, it's about 86 billion in paper being traded against the physical gold.
Yeah.
So Kyle asked him, he said, well, what would happen if 4% of those certificate holders want to do what I'm doing and take the
Right.
gold with them? What would you do? And the response was, oh, come on, Kyle. You and I both know that'll never happen.
He gets that a lot, doesn't he?
Yeah. So he took the gold with him. He was like, thank you very much. We're out of here. He took the gold with him, didn't say a word. But that's where we're at now.
Yeah.
There's no physical metal backing up any of the paper in your 401k or your IRA, your
And it's
gold
worse
back
with
IRA,
silver. It's worse with silver because silver is so much more accessible, right? I mean, you're looking now
Yeah,
at
there's an
$5,000 an
industrial
ounce
element.
gold.
Yeah, it's silver has that industrial element to it as well, which is
Yeah.
every cell phone produced takes 1 silver ounce, one coin. So that takes it out of the market, you know?
Yeah. And you're not getting it back. That's not, they're not recycling these things in a way, at
Not
least right
yet.
now.
If
That
it
it,
goes to a certain price and
no.
becomes worth it, then
Yeah.
people will discover a way to get the silver out of those things and
Yeah.
recycle it, you know? But right now it's not at the price where it would be too cost intensive to get the silver out.
Yeah.
It wouldn't make sense. But yeah, we're in a weird position. So what do you do with your money?
Yeah. What
What
do
do you
you
do
do
with
with your
your
money?
Yeah, I think you focus on safety and liquidity right now. Those are the two most important things. Safety of your money. Is it volatile? Is it in something where it can go up and down or you can lose it? If it is, get it out of there. Do something different, right? Figure out a safety mechanism. And then number two is, do you have enough liquidity to weather any storms?
Yeah.
If they shut down certain things and you lose your job, for example, unexpectedly, do you have enough cash or enough liquidity to be able to be okay for a few months or six
Yeah.
months or a year? Can you take a
Well,
year off of work, essentially?
what are you advising people or doing personally? Because we probably aren't giving financial advice directly, but you talk about this problem of the paper silver, the paper gold. So people, I mean, now is an important time, it seems, for people to get out of this, get out of the paper and get into something physical, even if it's less liquid, right? But it is yours if you hold it.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about metals just in
Mm-hmm.
general.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a store of value is what you're really looking at for metals. It's not so much an investment. It's more of a hedge in my mind. That's the way
Yeah.
I look at it, you know. Um, so
Would you?
you're just hedging against the volatility of the dollar,
Yeah.
you know.
Because if the dollar goes through the floor, what should people do? I mean, what is there to do?
Well, what happened in the past and throughout history is they buy a lot of physical things, just anything that's physical.
Yeah.
There's stories of back in the Great Depression of families buying refrigerators and refrigerator parts and storing them in warehouses because that was worth so much more than the dollars in their pocket, you
Wow.
know?
Yeah.
And so that when they needed food, they would sell
And
those
trade.
refrigerator parts, yeah, or trade them,
Yeah. Wow.
you know?
That's
And so I
wild.
think we'll see a lot of that.
So scary.
It
Now, would you
is. It
would you
is.
talk a little bit now, the comics is a commodities exchange. Do
Mhm.
you have more confidence in depositories than you do in the comics in terms of holding what they say they're holding?
Yeah, I don't know about those, especially if they're in China.
Yeah, not China.
Um,
That one's for national. That's like just like they're inviting
sure,
countries
central
to,
banks.
yeah, exactly, to send their
Yeah,
holdings there.
yeah, yeah, which is funny. So
Yeah.
one thing you got to look at is when you're sending your silver or gold or your metals over to a storage facility, you got to audit it. You got to walk the facility. You got to make sure that they have the physical stuff on hand. You
Yeah.
got to ask them how much they have generally in paper receipts and how much is in physical. Make sure it's backed.
Yeah.
You know, um, it's not a bad idea as long as it's just storage. If there's anything attached to that service that is like an investment banking firm or anything where they're
Right.
going to leverage that gold and silver, that's where I get scared.
Yeah.
But that's just me. Some people like to do that. It's almost like they're staking, the gold and silver, and they feel
Hmm.
like they're getting returns on it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I
what
had the
hap-
rug
what
pulled
happens
out.
when everybody, calls the cards due and there's
Exactly.
not
I
enough
had
to go
the
around?
the rug pulled out from under me. There was a crypto um, firm that was doing that. You would purchase the crypto, whatever it was, and they would, uh, it was there in your account, but they were lending against it,
Hmm.
and it went belly up, and they had
Yeah,
then they could only give back a fraction of what people had actually invested. And I think that's the same exact thing that could be happening with people who
yeah,
have their physical precious metals tied up with investment firms.
yeah. It is. It's the same with banks. They're way over leveraged. They're required by law to hold 10% of everything they have in cash reserves, which they hold at the life insurance companies. You know, life insurance companies are going to be the last ones standing when everything collapses. They're the only ones with the cash.
Would you
You know.
talk a little bit about fractional reserves? Because we're seeing that not only in the banks, but we're seeing fractional reserves, like not only in the banks in terms of cash holdings, but we're
Mhm.
seeing it on their balance sheets as well with the silver and gold. Like J.P. Morgan's name keeps popping up in this world of not having the physical assets to back up, their ETFs and whatever other promises they've made for silver and gold.
Mhm. Yeah, so that's where we're at right now. And it's really, when you think about that problem, it's a debt problem. It's the $37 trillion in debt, in sovereign debt, because that trickles down to everything. So JP Morgan has a bunch of gold or silver. They put that up at the bank and they loan against that at preferred interest rates, right? Then they take that loan money and invest it in something else. So now they've taken gold and silver, turned it into three different things. You know, there's
It's
the
a
physical
magic
gold and
trick.
silver, the loan, and then there's the investment, right? And so
Yeah.
they're just juggling balls at this point. And that happens with a lot of us, you know. We overextend ourselves, we borrow more money, we bet on something in the future, and it doesn't happen, and then we're screwed. And so when the investment doesn't pay off for JP Morgan, or they don't have the cash flow required to maintain or service the debt, that's when things get hairy, because they've got to sell something, right? So imagine all those short positions that they have on silver. They priced silver at $51. I think that was the call price for JP Morgan, where they're at right now.
Hmm.
And they had like 91,000 ounces or something crazy, or I forget the number, but it was just an amazing amount at $51. Well, it's at $117 today, and it's going up.
Yeah.
And they can't continue to feed into that system and just delay and pay for the use of that gold and silver. At a certain point in time, it's going to bust. So what they're doing right now is they're going to have to sell securities, stocks and bonds, other things,
Yeah.
to be able to cover it, right? So the whole thing just doesn't implode. And so when you have JP Morgan and then 50 other banks just like them doing the same thing, which we have that right now, it's not just JP Morgan.
Yeah.
There are about 50 other banks that are in the same spot. And so they're all borrowing money. They're all trying to hedge their bet, and they're all losing right now. And so what do they sell? Securities. What happens to the stock market? Crashes. Your IRA, your 401k is only everybody's IRA nationwide, everybody's 401k, everybody's personal retirement money that's in the market only makes up 2% of the market. 98% is these guys playing these games. So when they lose and something happens, what happens to your IRA or your 401k?
Yeah.
You
Crushed.
know, it gets crushed. And then you can't get the money out because everybody's trying to get their money out, and they just shut
Yeah.
it down. They stop trading, right? You have a GameStop situation where they got, the big short in that one GameStop stock that they tried to short. It's no
Re-
different. Same
re-
game.
Remember the days of too big to fail? Remember when the banks had to be propped up? That was under George W. Bush, I believe,
I
that they
was
decided. Was it, or was it Obama?
Obama. I
It
think it
was
was
Obama.
Obama.
Really?
Hmm.
So that 2008 when that was the Bear Stearns and the Cascade all there, and
Hmm.
then we had to prop up payments for Bank of America and on and on and on.
Yep.
Do you think that President Trump is similarly minded to President Obama, that the banks are too big to fail?
I don't think he is at all. In fact,
Yeah.
if you think about his career as a builder and developer, he's had to deal with banks his whole life.
Yeah.
Do you think he views them favorably? He knows what
Right.
they are. They're banksters. And so
Yeah.
I have a hunch that he would just let the cards settle and let the market settle, which would be a lot less painful, That would be a great experiment. We're living in exponential times right now. Everything that we do happens exponentially fast. We go
Yeah.
into debt exponentially fast. We can make money exponentially fast. I've got clients that, that made $1 million in 52 days on the internet, just marketing
Crazy.
and doing things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we live in an exponential world. And so if we let the banks fail and we let everything collapse, we will recover much, much quicker. The pain will be shorter. What we experienced in '08, we're still experiencing it today, and it's 2026. Almost 20 years later, we're still feeling the effects of all of that spending and, you know, QE, quantitative easing. Remember that?
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
that meant was money printing.
because we're paying for it. You pay for it when you lose your money in the first place, when the banks lose your money in the first place, and then you pay for it with interest as you're trying to help these banks recover.
Yeah.
It's not your dang problem that the banks fail. I mean, in
Yeah.
terms of the future, right? I mean, it's probably you're going to feel like
Right.
it's your problem in the moment, if you have all your assets there, but you shouldn't have to pay those assets in perpetuity.
Yeah. Yeah. So it'll be interesting. I don't know. I think the right thing to do is to let the market do whatever it's
Correct.
going to do, and
Yeah.
then create more sound money, go back to sound money. The hope is, eliminate income tax, eliminate property taxes, eliminate the Fed, use tariff money to pay for government and slim down government considerably. We've got what, 575 departments inside of government.
That's sick.
And when we started, it was what, Department of Education, or it was Department of War, the Secretary of State's office, Treasury, and then what, the Interior. I think there were
Yeah, the
just four
interior for
four
the parks.
departments.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
That was it. Now we have 575 departments, and those departments are making the rules, and they're unelected. Nobody voted for them. You know, they're
Yeah.
creating rules that we have to abide by. Nobody voted on and goes into law, right?
Yeah.
They're not laws, they're just
They're the
rules that,
rule makers and the
yeah,
enforcers.
it's the
It's
fourth branch of
unbelievable.
government.
Yeah.
So if we can do away with those departments, get rid of them all, don't need them, right? Like,
Yeah.
we're still funding the Department of Education fully at 100%, same funding level as with Biden. That passed just last week.
That's retarded.
We were
And
supposed to
frankly,
dismantle the Department of Education.
yeah, exactly. It goes against promise. Although I wouldn't say
Nothing's
that.
changing. Nothing.
Yeah, and I
You know.
see Alice in the chat there saying the Chevron Act. Absolutely, Alice. The Chevron. I guess it was the Chevron deference rule getting overturned by
Mhm.
the Supreme Court a couple years ago, that we should be gutting these agencies at a much more rapid rate than we are. And I don't know exactly what the holdup is, but I think that this fraud is going to be like a long piece of yarn that starts unraveling the whole thing.
I think it will. Maybe that's the way it has to happen. Maybe he's
Yeah.
just realized that, hey, you've got to show tangible evidence of fraud at certain levels. And then when you start pulling on the thread, you just ratchet it up and you discover, oh, it goes all the way up to the Fed.
Yeah.
Maybe we should shut down the Fed,
Yeah.
you know?
We should absolutely shut down the Fed. What do you think Jerome Powell's fate is? He is under investigation for way overspending on the renovations of the department. Now,
So where did that money go?
where did
You
that
know,
money go? Has anybody
again,
checked his
it's
has
like,
anybody checked his Swiss bank accounts or his
yeah,
Caribbean bank accounts?
or any of the people on the board,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. It's going to be
I
very.
hope, I hope that we just, you know, do the right thing. That's what I hope.
Yeah.
I hope we do the right thing.
In terms of positioning, you've talked about this a little bit. Now, you said be as liquid as you need to be, like just position yourself with some extra liquidity,
Mhm.
and make sure that you hold physical assets. Would you talk about what does that look like for you? Just so people can kind of get an understanding, because that sounds nice, but it's also vague.
Well, you want to choose things where you can access them if you need it or want it, right? And so when you think about 401ks or retirement accounts, how liquid are they?
Yeah.
You know, they're not very liquid.
Yeah.
And when you look at safety, you look at those accounts and you say, how safe are they? Right? They're not very safe. Now, on the flip side of that, if you know, if you liquidate everything and take all your money and put it in a tin can and bury it in your backyard, it's safe as long as you know where it is. It is liquid, but it's not really generating any return and it's probably
Yeah.
losing value over
Yeah.
time, you know? So there are some places where you can stick your money where it's getting good dividends. I look for dividend paying assets, assets that are paying income. I
Okay.
think that's the most important thing right now. You know,
Yeah.
it's stuff that can be the physical that's paying a dividend or revenue or income. Those are
Hmm.
real returns, you know.
Yeah.
Returns aren't your cash or your stock going from 100 to 200, then down to 50 and then up to 75, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
That's just a nominal increase or decrease that could be just from inflation.
Yeah.
Could be from just 0% interest rate money, you know,
Yeah.
like it was before. So it could be misleading. You know, I give examples like Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe right now is the hottest stock market on the planet. It's gone up higher and faster than any other stock market on the planet. The problem they have in Zimbabwe is that it literally costs 3 trillion Zimbabwean dollars to buy 3 eggs. Their currency is collapsed. So
Yeah.
you can triple or quadruple your stock portfolio and lose all your money
Yeah.
just because it's not real. It's not physical, you know?
Yeah. I was going to
If
say
you
they can be the hottest market because they have the lowest base.
yeah, it's like there's nothing there. So
Yeah.
um you know, you really got to be you got to think more critically, you know? Like when the herd is going one direction, you got to really stop, take a breath and say what's going on? Why is everybody going off the cliff? Or why
Yeah.
is everybody moving in this direction? And what's the opposite direction? What's over there, you know?
Yeah.
Like that very few people do that. But the ones who have really done well are always the ones that go against the herd, you know?
Mm.
It's never the ones that follow the herd,
Yeah. Well,
you
you
know?
see those memes on X right now of, I mean, they're so funny. People are so funny. They have, all these like, uh, just celebratory and smug memes of people who said, this is the way the guy's responding after having encouraged all his friends for the last 5 years to buy silver at 20 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's smoking a cigarette and doing the DJ thing and drinking straight out of the tequila bottle like he's so happy. It's just, first of all, I love memes, so I can't get enough of them. But I just think it's so funny. Um, and that was, they were the voice crying out in the wilderness 5 years ago. People
Yeah.
were like, what do you mean the
Yeah,
stock
Bill
market's
Burr
gonna?
has a skit, has a little a bit about that where he's like, I was at a party the other day and we were all shooting pool in the basement and we were getting along, a bunch of guys, and I was kind of just thinking, man, I could really be friends with these dudes. They're okay. And then this one guy comes up to me and leans in and he's like, there's no gold backing the dollar, right? And it changed the whole he's like, these conspiracy theory guys that just pop up out of nowhere. That's us. That's
That's us. Yeah.
us. You know, like
A
we're the
hundred
ones that
percent.
seem normal, but we're always like, there's nothing backing the dollar.
Yeah, exactly.
We're headed
Living.
off a cliff.
Well, give us some encouragement though, Sean. What is what
Yeah.
is what
So,
is what is the bright spots for you right now?
so exponential times, right? They can happen both ways. You can
Yeah.
make $1 million in 52 days now. I've seen it, right?
Yeah.
I've got evidence of that. So be hopeful. What we're hoping for is that we will abolish the IRS. We will stop the income tax. Think about the amount of money you're going to be able to have to do things with. You know,
Yeah.
I think if that coupled with the advancements in AI and what's going on,
Mhm.
I'm really, really encouraged by what Elon's doing.
Yeah.
in particular, not so much about the Chinese AI robots, but the
Yeah.
stuff that Elon's talking about, where, you know, once these things scale in the next 3 to 6 years is what he's predicting. He's saying in 3 years, these robots will be able to do surgery better than any surgeon in the country.
Wow.
They'll be more proficient and better surgeons than any other surgeon in the country. So they'll have the medical knowledge and understanding. And so if he can scale it and everybody gets their own personal robot, that changes so many things because your needs are fulfilled now with this AI machinery. If you need food, you can either grow it, go find it. If you need money, go make it, have the machine go make it, you know, doing some
That's
skill,
wild.
doing something, I was talking to a friend of mine who's a contractor. And I was thinking, imagine, the Elon's price point for these robots is going to be about 35 grand, about the cost of a low price car
Hmm.
now, right? Isn't that crazy? 35
Yeah.
grand for a low price car. Anyway, imagine buying three of those. You pay one time and you've got three workers that you can go to any job site with. They work 24/7, knock out projects better than any human could, right? More
Yeah.
precise, more exact, more ideas, more design features, and you know,
Yeah. It's a little scary though. I feel a
it
little
is.
like off put by the whole thing, like, okay, I saw his post yesterday or the day before of the robots uh digging the driveway out of the snow. I could get on board with that. I can get
Yeah,
on board with that kind of manual labor getting taken care of. But,
yeah,
you think about surgery, you think about human reasoning, um, being able to sense things that only a human can sense, that a robot
yep,
can't sense.
yep.
Those are things that can't be manufactured.
So how
I
valuable will those skills become
Yeah, I guess
in the
so.
future? Think about
I
it.
guess
So
it's
the
just
the
the
way I see this,
partitioning of the work.
yeah, the way I see this, and what Elon said was the robots will take over and do the things that you don't want to do,
Yeah.
the cooking, the cleaning, the maintenance, the stuff that you just don't want to do, which frees up so much time for us to be better human beings in every category, be more connected spiritually, right? How
Yeah.
much more time will we have to really intentionally connect to God? What
Yeah.
about our physical fitness, working out more, exercising, eating better food, right? We'll be able to focus on that. We'll be able to focus on relationships with our kids and our spouses, our families, our friends, be better leaders, in our communities.
Yeah.
Well,
How much
money
of
won't be an object. It won't even matter anymore.
how much of that do you think could just be fixed by fixing our financial system, period, right? Because you and I have talked
100%.
before about, we're running after money to pay bills, like we're
Right.
trading time for money
Now we're
instead
running after
of
money to pay
living.
taxes, you know?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
a lot of us that are business owners, entrepreneurs, investors, they get to the end of the year and they've had a good year, bad year, it doesn't matter. They've expensed a bunch of stuff and they're turning around and
Yeah.
April's coming up and they're like, I got a big fat tax bill. Where am I
Yeah.
going to get that money? I guess I'm going to have to work the first third of this year just to pay the tax bill on that year for free,
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
where we're at. So if we can fix that problem, you're right. It changes life for everybody.
Yeah.
Changes everything.
Yeah, and I think the tide is turning for people. We have been so technology focused for so long. Basically, I mean, my entire life, yours too, right? Like pretty close to it anyway. Um, and if we're able to fix the financial system in a way that allows people to reconnect more with nature and spend time outside, spend time gardening, growing their own food, spend time hiking instead of running expense reports or paying taxes, that's a whole different world. That's like a much saner world. People will be so
Mm.
much nicer.
Yep. Happier, more
Yeah.
connected, more mission
Yeah.
driven, helping each
Yeah.
other out more.
Yeah. because it's not like a frenzy. Because right now, people,
Right.
people are on a hamster wheel on overdrive.
Stuck in scarcity mindset, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I think
Do you
that's the
have
future.
what's your best advice, Sean, for people who are in scarcity mindset? How do you encourage people to shift out of that into seeing limitlessness?
So that's a great question. I talk about that in the book as well. There's three different levels in my mind. You start off in scarcity mode until you start getting to a point where you reach abundance, this level of abundance where the bills are paid, things are taken care of, you feel more comfortable, right?
Yeah,
And then the last level is true prosperity, where you're actually able to give back and make a bigger impact, right?
yeah,
But so often, business owners and entrepreneurs, what we do is we cycle between scarcity and abundance. We go to abundance, things are great for a while, then we slip back into scarcity, and then things suck for a while, right?
yeah,
And then we go back up, and it's just this constant loop. The key to this whole game is stabilizing abundance, and that's done through patterns, habits, and behavior. You got to change your patterns, your habits, and your behaviors. You know,
What
like
about
if
your expectations? Is that part of it?
uh, I don't know. I think
Okay.
that's optimism versus pessimism. You know,
Okay. Yeah.
like lower expectations to me just means that I expect to be great. I expect my children to be great. You know, my daughter, 12 years old this morning, didn't want to go to school. They had the last 2 days off because it was
I get it.
frozen,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
wouldn't get out of her room. And I'm just
Hmm.
like, I expect more from you, you
Yeah.
know,
Hmm.
like what is going on here? This is insane.
Yeah.
But
But
my
it's cold.
expectations are pretty high. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is cold.
Yeah. I didn't
But
want to get out of my room either.
yeah. Yeah. But so that's a great example. You know, when I was a diver training for the Olympic team, we didn't want to get in the pool in the morning at 6 a.m. either when it was freezing
Yeah.
cold.
Hmm.
But you train your brain to do those hard things. And then when hard things come up, it's easy.
You don't
You
freak
know,
out.
no, after this podcast, I'm going to jujitsu. I'm training. I've been training for 4 years now, coming up on 4 years. You know, there are a
Hmm.
lot of days like today, it's freezing outside. I don't want to go to the gym. It's going to be
Yeah.
cold in the gym.
Yeah.
But if I know that if I make myself go, and the way I do it is I convince myself I'm just going to stretch, right?
I
Just
like
going to
that.
go and stretch, just warm
Hmm.
up and stretch, and that's it. At the end of that session, that training session, I drive home. The radio isn't even on. I can't even remember the drive home. I'm just feeling so good physically and
Hmm.
mentally. I
Yeah.
know that it just does it's so good for my body, for my mind, you know,
Yeah.
just doing hard things, making yourself do those hard things. That's why cold plunging is such a rage right now.
Hmm.
You know, it trains your brain to do the hard things. When you train your brain to do the hard things or challenge yourself, you expand and grow. You
Yeah.
become better. You become different, and life is a game of expansion. If you're not
Yeah.
expanding and growing, you're not living really.
Yeah.
If you're not
Now,
doing more, being more, and giving more, then what are we doing?
how do you get from this? So you talk about scarcity. What was the second one? And then abundance,
Yeah,
scarcity,
scarcity,
prosperity.
abundance, and then true prosperity.
Okay.
True true prosperity is when you've got more than enough and you're comfortable, and your focus shifts from how do I make more money, or how do I improve my family's situation, in my situation. It shifts to how can I improve my community or my surroundings or the
Yeah.
world around me. How can I really make an impact on someone else? And so there, in my mind, the more we focus on that level, the more it pulls us and draws us up there. We skip over abundance almost sometimes because you're just going straight to giving. And
Hmm.
so you're blessed with more, you're you know, you're more responsible for things. You, you,
And
you
someone who's giving minded tends, I'm asking, is someone who's giving minded in your experience a better steward of everything that they keep, or not necessarily?
I don't know. That's a good question. How would you
Yeah.
measure that?
Well,
You know?
you know, I guess this is the example that comes to mind. If someone is a generous person but gives a little spontaneously,
Sparingly.
or
Yeah.
no, even maybe spontaneously, maybe emotion driven giving, rather than, and then at the end of the month they realize, oh, I don't have enough to pay my own
Hmm.
bills now because I wasn't,
Hmm.
I didn't do this the right way.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I think about that being not
Yeah.
necessarily a rule, right? Like that's probably an exception, but I think people may be giving in that way, and then, it's not that sustainable kind of giving.
Right. Right. Well, there's a difference between generosity and intentional giving, like we all want to be generous,
Yeah.
but you don't necessarily have to give away your money. You can be generous with your time, your talent, your treasures, you know,
Yeah.
like maybe just getting out and volunteering more is the right thing to do now. Spending more time, just giving
Yeah.
more time, and not necessarily investing, philanthropic capital, the money itself.
Yeah.
You know, like there's
Yeah.
a lot that people can do on a daily basis to work that giving muscle and just get stronger.
Mhm.
Like there's opportunity everywhere. There's no shortage of need.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
we just got to open our eyes and stop. We got to get out of ourselves in our own pit, in our own, you know, stuff, and start thinking about others more.
Yeah.
I think the
Yeah.
more we promote that, the more we do that, the better response we get from people too.
It's true. Yeah.
You know, the more
That's the
business you'll do, the cooler people you meet.
Yeah, I think that's that wide open, spacious life that is talked about, I think, in Psalm 18, where, you brought me to a broad place. So, how do you get to a broad place? Well, I think that's the way. It's because you're not
Yeah.
in that narrow place of self.
Hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the key for me. I got into that funk. I went through a period where I cycled a couple of times, made a bunch of money and lost it, made a bunch more and then lost it again.
Yeah.
Simultaneously life happened, and my wife and I were newlyweds and newly married, and we were all excited about starting a family. We lost our first daughter, Charlie, and
Yeah.
crushed us, and almost lost the house. And so it was, I've been through these experiences where I've been so down in the pit, you don't ever think you're going to be able to get out of it.
Yeah.
And for me, what shifted was when, one day my wife came home and said, "Hey, my friend Adina is doing a Thanksgiving food drive at her church. We need to borrow your truck. We're going to throw a bunch of boxes in there with turkeys and Thanksgiving
Yeah.
food and deliver it to people." And I said, "No, I'm not going to let you drive the truck. It was leaking oil. It was 214,000 miles on it. It was old."
Yeah.
I said, "I don't want it to break down. I'll drive the truck, but I'm not getting out." And I went to the church and I saw everybody helping and serving, especially the children. And it shifted something in me. And it really made me, it was kind of the whack on the side of the head, you
Yeah.
know, where it
Mhm.
woke me up. And I was like, "Crap, what have I been doing for the last year and a half?"
Yeah.
Just totally focused on myself and my own misery. And so it was tough at the beginning, but I forced myself to keep showing up and volunteering, getting out of my own pain and helping other people.
Yeah.
And that's a big, big part. That shifts a lot, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think it's wonderful. And thank you for being so open with your own life, because we all go through really rough things, and
We
it's
do.
so, and I think our culture in some ways has become hesitant to talk about some of the pain that people experience, because there had been, I don't know if it's so much now, but probably over the last 10 years at least, there's been this pressure um, for people who curate their lives online to show such a perfect picture of everything, and anything
Hmm.
that's not perfect, doesn't make the cut. But it's so important for us to know that everyone is going through tough stuff, and there are keys to getting out of it, and there are keys to overcoming it, and there are keys to being successful in it, and there are keys to blessing other people because of it. And
Hmm.
you, Sean, have been such a great example of that in my life. I just appreciate you so much. So thank you for sharing your story and for giving us some wisdom nuggets today. I just am so grateful for you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a couple of reminders to the audience out there. If you have not yet, please join the Warrior Circle. You can do that at join.freedomstate.us. Let me see, I'll get that up on the screen. That is our subscription program for people who want to support the shows for the love of freedom and the state of freedom. We give you great access to be able to give Q&As or to exclusive Q&As throughout the month. So you'll want to join and be able to participate in that. It's been off to a little bit of a bumpy start. I'm not going to lie about that, but we're working out the kinks. So stick with us if you are already with us. Thank you so much. And then to get in touch with Sean, if you have questions or interested in what he's doing or are looking for some deeper advice than he can give on this show, you can visit him at seanbriscombe.com. And I encourage you to get his book, The Truth About Taxes. It's on Amazon. It's a great read and it's a great exercise. I really, really benefited from the exercises in the book to kind of flesh out some things that I hadn't put pen to paper on yet. And
Awesome.
then just one last note, back tomorrow on the State of Freedom, we will be there, be here, same time, same place, and we'll have Professor David Clements with us. He'll be talking about developments in the election integrity space and most probably also about Tina Peters. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Sean, again for coming. You're always such a pleasure and a gift, and I'll be seeing you soon.
Thank you. My pleasure.
If you're looking to invest in physical precious metals or convert your 401k to a precious metals backed IRA, please consider making your investment with our trusted partner, Metal Stacks. Their prices regularly beat the big sites and they have no credit card fees or minimums. Shipping is free for orders over $500. Just visit metalstacks.com/dwalker or get there from our website, freedomstate.us. If you're interested in the IRA conversion, drop me a message at Danielle@freedomstate.us and I can get you connected with their white glove service.
Blanco Brothers has been in business in Louisiana for about 30 years now. I have personal experience with this company, and I know others who have as well. If you have a business or a home and you've got roofing, gutter, sheet metal issues at all, one number you need to know, and that's Blanco Brothers Construction. He will treat you right financially, and he will take very good care of you with regard to the quality of the service that he provides. I cannot recommend Blanco Brothers Construction more highly enough. Memorize the number 225-226-4222. Let him work with your insurance company and let him treat you right if you have a problem. There's no more important commodity on your home than your roof. And, when there's a problem with it, you need to be able to trust both financially and with respect to the workmanship who is doing your work. Blanco Brothers Construction, the very best in the business.
Thanks for joining me today on For the Love of Freedom. It is an honor and a true privilege to get to spend some time with you. If you're looking for other episodes of this show, you can find them on all of the State of Freedom platforms. And a reminder that this show is live on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Central. God bless.